Hello listeners, welcome to this course Basics of Automobiles. Today in this lecture we will study about the various engines that is used in the automobiles. Let us quickly recapitulate what we have studied in the last class. An internal combustion engine is a heat engine which converts the heat energy into mechanical work. So by the use of IC engine we can convert the heat energy into mechanical energy which is used to drive the vehicle or to move the vehicle. So the main objective of this lecture is to study the engine used in our automobiles and its working along with the understanding of the types of IC engines and to study about the two-stroke and four-stroke IC engine and to understand the various functions and various parts of IC engine. Let's quickly come to the introduction part. So what is basically the engine? Engine is actually a device which convert one form of energy into mechanical energy. For example, heat engine, electric motors, these all are examples of the engines. So in a heat engine, the chemical energy of the fuel is first converted into heat by combustion. Then the heat is then converted to mechanical energy with the help of the working fluid. So intense heat produced during the combustion increases the pressure and the temperature of the working fluid. The working fluid then expands resulting in mechanical work. Working fluid can be anything. It can be either liquid or gases, which is used to carry the heat is known as working fluid. Now coming to the types of heat engine. So heat engine can basically be divided into two types. External combustion engine and internal combustion engines. In this external combustion engine, the combustion of the fuel will take place outside the engine. For example, steam engine. In this, the combustion of the fuel is taking place outside, which convert the water into steam that is being utilized as a working fluid to generate the power. So steam power plants having the steam engine is the example of external combustion engine. Now coming to the internal combustion engine. So the internal combustion engine in which the fuel will combustion of fuel will take place inside the engine itself in the engine cylinder. So the sub classification of the internal combustion engine can be reciprocating engine, Wankel engine, rotary engine, gas turbine. So rotary means having the rotation motion. And in the reciprocating, it can be further classified into CI engine and SI engine. CI is compression ignition engine, SI is spark ignition engine. So it's in the this spark ignition engine. The main difference is it is having using the spark plug in which the we will insert directly the air plus fuel mixture in the combustion chamber, which is then compressed, and the spark plug is used to ignite the fuel. And in this compression ignition, only air will enter in the engine, and the fuel in the liquid form will be sprayed through the fuel sprayer or fuel injector. So the CI engine can be further be classified into two-stroke engine and four-stroke engine. Similarly, SI engine they can also be further classified into two-stroke and four-stroke SI. Now coming to the types of heat engine. So heat engine can basically be divided into two types. External combustion engine and internal combustion engines. In this external combustion engine, the combustion of the fuel will take place outside the engine. For example, steam engine. In this, the combustion of the fuel is taking place outside, which convert the water into steam that is being utilized as a working fluid to generate the power. So steam power plants having the steam engine is the example of external combustion engine. Now coming to the internal combustion engine. So the internal combustion engine in which the fuel will combustion of fuel will take place inside the engine itself in the engine cylinder. So the sub classification of the internal combustion engine can be reciprocating engine, Wankel engine, rotary engine, gas turbine. So rotary means having the rotation motion. And in the reciprocating, it can be further classified into CI engine and SI engine. CI is compression ignition engine, SI is spark ignition engine. So it's in the this spark ignition engine, the main difference is it is having using the spark plug, in which the we will insert directly the air plus fuel mixture in the combustion chamber, which is then compressed, and the spark plug is used to ignite the fuel. And in this compression ignition, only air will enter in the engine, and the fuel in the liquid form will be sprayed through the fuel sprayer or fuel injector. So the CI engine can be further be classified into two-stroke engine and four-stroke engine. Similarly, SI engine, they can also be further classified into two-stroke and four-stroke SI. Here in this diagram you can see this is the diagram of a four-stroke diesel engine. It is written over here. So there are four steps, or you can say that four-stroke. That's why it is known as four-stroke diesel engine. So first stroke is our suction stroke, second stroke is compression stroke, third stroke is power stroke or known as working stroke, and fourth stroke is exhaust strokes. So this whole process will complete into four stroke of this cycle. That's why it is known as four-stroke diesel engine. And in this engine, diesel is used as a fuel, so that's why it is known as diesel engine. Apart from diesel engine, one more engine is there, that is known as petrol engine, in which petrol is used as a working fluid. In this diagram, in this suction stove, you can see that there are inlet valves and there is exhaust valve. So during the suction process, as this the crank move, the crank is connected to the crankshaft, and this crank is connected to the piston through the connecting rod. So as the crank move, so it will move the piston. So as the piston will move, it will create a suction pressure in this zone. So it will open the inlet valve. So as soon as the inlet valve will open, then the mixture of air will enter to the combustion chamber, or we can say the cylinder. So this is the suction stroke. Next come to the compression stroke. So as the suction is complete, so in the start of the compression stroke, the inlet valve will closed, and then the piston will compress this mixture of air plus fuel. So it will compress, as you can see this crank will move in the clockwise direction. So the piston will move upward and it will compress the mixture of air and fuel in the compression stroke. Third stroke is working stroke, it is written because it is the main stroke and it is also known as power stroke. In this, upon the complete compression of this air fuel mixture, it will reach its self ignition temperature, and this mixture will burn out. It will produce a lots of energy. So the piston will move in the downward direction. So it will rotate this connecting rod and this crankshaft. So this is known as power stroke or working stroke. In the four stroke, as the crank will further move, then there is the combustion gases. This will discharge through the exhaust gas through the exhaust valve, and it will discharge into the atmosphere. Now comes to the two-stroke petrol engine. So here this is the diagram of a two-stroke petrol engine. So in this two-stroke petrol engines, the engine will take a two-stroke to complete the one working cycle. So it is based on Otto cycles. As the diesel engine is based on diesel cycles, so the petrol engine is based on Otto cycle. So these are the different parts of the petrol engines. So here you can see the spark plug. This is the main difference, that the petrol engine contains the spark plug, which is not present in the diesel engines. Different parts are exhaust port, petroleum mixture port, inlet port, crankcase, connecting rod, piston, exhaust case, fins for heat transfer. So here this is the diagram of two-stroke petrol engine. So this is the inlet port from where the air fuel mixture will come. and this is known as exhaust port. So here you can see as the piston will move in the clockwise direction, as the piston will move downwards from the bottom dead center to top dead center, the air fuel mixture is drawn in through the inlet. From the inlet, the air fuel mixture will come in, and the supply where the air fuel mixture is cut off in the upward motion of the piston. As the piston will move upward, so then the supply of air fuel mixture will be cut out. Further, the piston will compress the air plus the fuel mixture in the cylinder, and due to this, the burned gases are expelled out, and the process is known as scavenging. Now, these two diagrams they clearly indicates the different parts. So here you can see this is the spark plug which is used to ignite the fuel. These are the camshaft. You can see they are controlling the through the cam. They are controlling this intake valve and this exhaust valve. So these are known as spring valve. So here this is a cylinder head. You have seen the previous diagram. This you can see this is the cooling water, and this one is known as piston. It is of cylindrical shape, and this part is known as this complete part is known as crankcase. And here you can see this is the connecting rod. So piston is connected through the piston pin to the connecting rod, and that connecting rod, the bigger end of the connecting rod is connected to the camshaft. This is cylinder block, and this chamber, this is known as combustion chamber because the whole combustion process, power stroke is taken place in this chamber. So this is the inlet port for the air fuel mixture entry, air entry, and this is the exhaust port for the removal of exhaust gases or the burned gases. Here this is the cross section diagram: exhaust, inlet, spark plug, you can see piston, rod, camshaft, and water jacket. Now coming to the internal combustion engine parts and their function. First of all, cylinder. Cylinder of an IC engine constitute the basic and the supportive portion of the engine power units. Its main function is to provide the space in which the piston can operate to draw in the fuel air mixture. It depends upon the spark ignition or compressor ignition. Then compress it and allow it to expand and thus generate power. So the cylinder is usually made of high-grade cast iron. In some cases to give greater strength and wear resistance, with less weight, chromium, nickel, and molybdenum are added to the cast iron as an alloy. Now next part is the piston. Piston of an engine is the part, it is the first part to begin the movement and to transmit power to the crankshaft. As a result of the pressure and the energy generated by the combustion of the fuel, the piston is closed at one end and open at the other end, permit to the direct attachment of the connecting rod and its reaction. Next to it is the piston rings. These are the rings attached to the pistons. These are made of cast iron on account of their ability to retain bearing qualities and elasticity indefinitely. The primary function of the piston ring is to retain compression and at the same time reduce the cylinder wall and piston wall contact area to a minimum, thus reducing the friction losses that is occurring between the piston and cylinder wall and reducing the excessive wear. The other important function of the piston ring are to control of the lubricant oil, cylinder lubrication, and the transmission of heat away from the pistons from the cylinder wall. Piston rings are classed as compressed rings and oil rings, depending upon their function and location of the position. First two rings are the compressor rings, and the third ring is the oil ring, which release the oil for the cooling of the piston that occur due to. These are the different part of the IC engine. You can see cylinder, piston rings, connecting rod, crank and crankshaft, valves, flywheel, Here in this diagram you can see part of the engine cylinder, part of the engine where fuel is burnt, piston rings, cylinder, connecting rod. This is piston pin connecting the piston to the connecting rod. This is flywheel. This is crankcase. This is crankshaft. And here it is inlet valve, exhaust valve. This is cam for regulating the inlet valve and exhaust valve. You can see how the cam is regulating the both of the inlet as well as exhaust valve. Here you can see in the compression stroke, piston will move upward, inlet and exhaust are closed. Piston move from bottom dead center, this is bottom dead center towards the top dead center. Cranking required in first cycle. Air will be compressed to a ratio of 1:20. So approx 1:20 is the compression ratio for the air. Diesel oil is sprayed into the cylinder by injecting and auto ignition take place. So here since this is a diesel engine, so here with this the help of this the fuel will be injected. So this is fuel injector. Upon the this much of compression, the fuel is injected to the fuel injector and automatically the due to the self ignition temperature of this fuel the combustion will take place. Here you can see this diagram. The piston will move from top dead center to bottom dead center. Inlet and exhaust valve are closed. You can see inlet and exhaust valve are closed. Since this is the power stroke, power cycle, burnt gas generated energy. So here the burnt gas that is burnt, which is generated energy and push the piston in the downward direction. Now coming to the difference between SI engine and CI engine. So what is basically the SI engine? SI engine is spark ignition engine and CI engine is compression ignition engine. So the SI engine it's work on Otto cycle, whereas the CI engine it's work on diesel cycle or dual combustion cycles. Since it is operating on a diesel and diesel fuel, so it is known as diesel cycle. And this Otto cycle is petrol cycle. It is given the Otto cycle name by the name of the scientist. So in SI engine, a fuel having higher self-ignition temperature is desirable, such as petrol, or we can say gasoline is also name of the petrol. Whereas in CI engine, a fuel having low self-ignition temperature is desirable, such as diesel oil. Because in CI engine, the ignition or the combustion is due to the compression. So the fuel having low self-ignition temperature is required, whereas in CI engine a spark plug is used. So the fuel having high self-ignition temperature can also be used. In SI engine, air and fuel mixture in gaseous form is inducted through the carburetor in the cylinder during the suction stroke. Whereas in CI engine, only air is introduced into the cylinder during the suction stroke and therefore the carburetor is not required. Fuel is injected at high pressure through the fuel injectors directly into the combustion chamber. So basically in SI engine, air and fuel mixture is required and whereas in CI engine, only air is introduced. So this is the main difference. In CI only air, in SI air plus fuel mixture. Apart from this, throttle valve of the carburetor controls the quantity of the charge in SI engine. The quantity of the charge in SI engine remains almost fixed during the normal running condition at variable speed and load. So it is a quantity governed engine. Whereas in CI engine, the amount of air inducted is fixed, but the amount of fuel injected is varied by regulating the quantity of fuel in the pump. The air fuel ratio is varied at varying load, so it is a quality governed engine, whereas the SI engine is a quantity governed engine. So these are the few notable references. So these are the few references you can see. Thank you.